What is with this thing here?
Did this kid eat dinner?
I didn't see it then. I'm online already. All right. Let me know. Also, I just want to do. We had a lot last week. Drama. So just for the, I want to do more. I want to keep it to Q&A. Like what questions you have about anything. I'm gonna be here until 9:00. Well, I tried to do 6 to 10. This is as fast 6 to 9, but this is as fast as I could get on. With all the hecticness, you know. Discretion. But 7, 9, 30. Yeah, let me know your question. Again, I keep writing in the summary of the classes though. This has nothing to do with COVID. It's just a family health matter, and I have some more responsibilities. So I literally can't go from Staten Island to the school and make it in time to do all of these things. So thankfully, I mean, the only way I could do this if I did it really, really early hour, which wouldn't be that much of a usefulness to students going to the school. Like even morning, which is not very useful. So, but I wanted to be Q&A. I want to catch up. I have all of these specific things to build on, but I haven't been able to formulate them the way I wanted to. You know what I mean? And now that it's February, I would like to know, since I haven't gone into specific lessons, what people are doing to actually fulfill their goals and things like that. You know what I mean? Like one of the things you can always do in a year that is very difficult though is what I can do is have things ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Have things ready to go to give yourself the accomplishments immediately. You know what I mean? And that's why I like the way people celebrate the end of the year with Christmas and New Year's. They usually end up off point with their physical bodies, always catching up. Not able, then that affects the mental, unable to catch up, get into a swing. You know what I mean? I appreciate that, Bon Supreme. I appreciate that. You know, let's use this resource and material that we have here. And I'll go into all the flag stuff that I know of on the whole universal flag front. If anybody has any specific questions on that, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to load all the windows. All right, so let me know if you have any questions, if you have a build, um, anything. I really want to get people's questions because um, it lets me formulate that type of class. Remember that one of the problems is that there's a lot of things I think are useful to share, but they may not be useful to you. So it's important that I keep hearing what it is that everybody needs. You know what I mean? A lot of times, and I might think I'm past the question and it needs to be answered again. Uh, okay, things are open now. Well, what particular work are we talking about? Uh, uh, work. What work are we talking about? Where does the intelligence that shapes the work originate from? Um, it's a little vague. I don't know what work you're talking about. Ah, okay. That makes it a totally different question. Okay. This actually relates to something I was thinking about the other day. Let me see if I can pull it up. In a particular book I was reading. Ah, here it was. I was thinking I don't know why I keep forgetting. There's this author. Yeah. There we go. I remembered his name. Let me see if I can get the spelling right. Okay, if this thing loads, I could tell you the name. All right, there we go. It reminds you of these things. I'll go kind of long-winded because I think it'll be useful. There's a lot of the science that a lot of the ancient texts have talked about, and a lot of the spiritual leaders, and even to this modern day, certain scientists are of a very progressive note. And I'll give you two examples to show the ancient to the modern, or just the scientific contemporary, but both are pretty contemporary. Um, this idea of intelligence is this idea of the development over time. So when people like when scientists like, and this is not the scientists I'm going to mention, I'm just using it for a base to get the idea. Richard Dawkins is one of those scientists that, you know, they're strictly on evolution. They don't bear witness to intelligent design. So it is seen as like an either or. It's either everything is developing from complete ignorance and happenstance, right? Complete ignorance or happenstance, or and slowly evolving, thus evolution, right? And take away the concepts of racism with evolution, because that's how evolution and the theories are applied by scientists, but that's not really what it originally was. um just put it simply, it's the concept of development, you know, that everything continues to develop, right? However, if you go into ancient texts, though, they have kind of a different concept. They have a concept where everything is already supreme, and the development itself is part of the supremacy. The ever development of all things has always been in existence, always has been, always will be, and everything will continue to always continue to develop, right? And what's interesting is that I write about a lot of the books that I've already read, and I became familiar with one of them. And I was writing about a book I read, a very short text, but a very powerful book, by Timothy Leary, called "Your Brain is God." Right? Okay, and obviously, just the way that the book sound, the name of the book is already gonna interest us in some way if we have the knowledge of self. And here's some interesting things. He has it in steps, right? And mind you, I haven't notated the entire book, so I'm refamiliarizing myself by doing this. But for him, I'm going to read you a part of this. I could find it. It's in the notes. Let me just go to the notes that I made. He look at the interesting way that he defined this book. He said this isn't, and what he was trying to share, right? And for those of you who know, Timothy Leary is a famous, infamous, however you want to put it, psychologist that really did a lot of experiments with LSD. He's part of the psychedelic drug movement, and all that stuff. So that's what he gets remembered for. However, the more that you read about what he thought about these things, they were really about for him. Okay. I'm not saying, because sometimes people have an idea of what things ought to be used for, and they're not used for those things. They veer away from the path. Just like Karl Marx, Marxism has nothing to do with what he was talking about. Whether he would have agreed with it or not is a choice by choice thing. If we took Marx out and we brought him to the future and stuff, right? He might agree with some of it. He might not agree with all of it, right? Or he loves all of it or hates all of it, right? But Timothy Leary, the idea of the psychedelic drugs was really about manifesting things to get to to expand the already supreme brain. But this concept of the brain was already developing. So he said, listen, he said that this book was an activist do-it-yourself theology, right? And I want to keep it as simple as possible, right? So I'll give you the textbook definition of theology, okay? The study of the nature of God and religious belief, right? So he said it's an activist do-it-yourself theology, okay? He said God is defined in terms of the technologies involved in creating a universe and engineering the obvious stages of evolution. So for him, the brain is something that actually controls this universe around us, and it is slowly built up so that it could continue to create an even greater universe. So the concept of him for evolution was that whatever you develop has the potential to be greater, but because if people don't develop their brains, it will not be greater. So there's this dichotomy here, right? Right, meaning a contrast between the two things, right? And when he describes it, he gives it in levels. I'm not going to read the levels because they are very awkward reading. They don't quote well because you have to read the context of his book to really get what he meant by the ideas. But for him, no, we are creating our own world and the supremacy that it involves. And he builds on it through stages. So he has like God number one, and not like different gods, like different gods, but stages, and he talks about these stages, how they develop. And it reminded me a lot of the Sufic, many of the Sufic orders, right? They had stages, you know what I mean? And it reminds me of the works of Inayat, Hazrat Inayat Khan, um, who wrote one of my favorite books. This doesn't really have much to do with that, but uh, because you all know, if you know, obviously music is a big part of my life. So he wrote a great book called The Mysticism of Sound and Music, which is a monumental work for me. But in a lot of the Sufic orders that he described and detailed in a lot of his other works, um, they detail that the Sufic orders, they constantly did this thing where they would build up to things, where there were orders, the vegetable world, the animal world, all of these things. And they're not separate from each other, but they are levels of supremacy, right? And they were all levels of supremacy. And there was something, I'm not sure if I passed it here, if I highlighted it, because it's on my mind, so probably. Or this might have been in the book. This might have been in the book that I just read that has nothing to do with this. Let me see if I wrote the proper note here. I'll be so upset if I didn't note it, because it was such a interesting way of saying it. I think it was in this last book that I just finished today. No, I didn't highlight it, so it may not be from that book. But going back to your question, a lot of the ideas were intelligence that shapes the world. Where does the intelligence that shapes the world originate from? Right? It originates from the mind itself. Okay, and everything is really from this mind generating thought. You see, and it is the mind that is generating these thoughts in stages of levels of development that we are talking about. You know what I mean? Now the book Knowledge Allah is called Your Brain is God. That's the way he sees it, because he sees it as defining the technologies that build up the universe. You see? For me, I think it is actually much more easier in dealing with neurology and the way that we build, to think of the brain and the mind as two different things. You see? Um, the brain is really like the radio. You know what I'm saying? And it is the physical reality, you know what I mean, of the mind. You know what I mean? It is that most crucial conduit. And just like the rest of the physical body, it must be taken care of, right? I don't know if that begins to answer the way that you're seeing this question also, because or where you're dealing, because from the questions that you usually give me, I know that you were a student of other ideologies. I don't know you to be a 5% or so. These are interesting questions from outside of that, looking in at what we do. You know what I mean? You said also intelligence that shapes nature, all the elements working to create life, DNA. Um, here's the thing. Um, I think this. I think one of the reasons it's so hard to answer the question is because I don't think that the question is detailed enough. That's no fault of anyone thinking of the question. You see what I'm saying? Right? But when we go through the concepts of what is knowledge, right? What is knowledge? Right? In essence, knowledge is actually provable facts, provable information that beyond any any dimension of time or space continues to be true, right? Now, if that is the case, though, right, then these are the building blocks of what would be the intelligence, meaning the working knowledge, right, that shapes all things, right? And when we look at a working knowledge, we're looking at the idea of creating. We're looking at the idea of creating something, and then it becomes something that is suitable to continue to use. So, in essence, so intelligence, then, in this definition that we're looking at, is more like wisdom. Okay. The knowledge has to be there first, and then the wisdom. You see, the information that is absolutely true must be true, must have been applied, and then it actually is a wisdom that is used to what? Come to an understanding, meaning levels of what we are, become, develop into. You see? So to me, I see it as really a never ending process that really has no beginning, no ending. And whatever point that we look at, we are always looking at a point that is in the middle of that. Never really in the beginning, never really in the ending. It is only when we define it and categorize it that we find a time or a space that we are in. Okay. And then in doing so, we allow us a greater building block of new intelligence to continue to reach understanding. When I say the difference between the brain and the mind, though, is that I'm separating the mind from the thoughts, the to be simple, the products that are said to come from the brain. Okay. And there has to be a way to separate that concept, right? But the mind is not functioning alone, right? You said, Malik, so it's an action or a verb. Regarding what? Because I don't know what you're what you're asking there particularly. Okay, because I'm going off here, and then I don't know where that would reference would be. Um, no, people take knowledge as a verb, like doing the knowledge, right? But that's how we use the word to emphasize. But knowledge is really like it's really a thing. It's really something. Okay, it's really a truth. It really just what is. You know, Allah always has been, always will be. It just is. Okay, so it wouldn't be like an action or verb. It just is. The thing is that our approach to acquiring knowledge, though, is as creative, has to do as much with creativity as the products of it, meaning the understanding. But to actually get knowledge is a process that can be just as creative and just as challenging, right? Because if knowledge is infinite, then you were always mining yourself for a new idea and you were self creating that idea. And it is based off the understanding that you already had. It's intriguing, intriguing. All right. You said it's continuing its process to get wisdom and so on. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hmm. Exactly. I'm quiet now. I just want to see if everybody got or if I'm getting close to being useful with an answer here. Okay. Um, so the process is exponentially done and not linear, or like we could take a snapshot of each principle in time, knowledge, then wisdom, understand. It isn't done. I don't. No, no, none of it is done linear, and none of it is guaranteed to be done bound by time or space. Right. That's what we learn best from quantum mechanics, though, is that the reality of things and the lack of consistency. So it's just like the concept of the Son of Man, right? The Son of Man is man is the son. Once that man grows up, he is a man. Then he has a son, and that revolving door. But that reality is that that son has to go back and then grow up to be a man. So this is not a linear process. You see, it's a process that jumps back to go forward. Okay, so none of this is linear. You know what I mean? And when we look at things like nature and all of these things, I don't agree that it is just steps like um, vegetable, animal, this, that. I think that all of us have, to reach a supremacy, right? If the supremacy is already there, then that means that all of these levels are overlapping. They are not necessarily levels that are adhered to like steps. They are overlapping, and they feed each other, because the more you study about the animal world or the plant world, there are complexities there that are so profound that it isn't just a simple chart of where on top, this is below, this is below. You know what I mean? It certainly wouldn't be that way. You know, obviously, if we want to talk about supremacy, then our supremacy is in the decision to be able to this, is in our ability to acknowledge ourselves, the special self-awareness, right? And the ability to act upon it, right? To contemplate what we, these, all of these ideas that we say are God, that most people agree, whether mysterious or not, right? That we are the decision makers in this reality, right? So that's really the profound reality. Now, this is really a general answer to that, not just the animal and the plant world, right? Not just the animal and the plant world, you know, but all these stages of development are overlapping. You know what I mean? The reason I say that, like, look at the plant world, like, we simplify it, but there are so much more complexities, and um, we we are also involved with that. You know what I mean? So their development has to do with us as well, and so on and so forth. These stages, yeah, these stages always overlap for all things. For all things, you know what I mean? The truth is, we say that the original man is the creator of all life, is because he is the major springboard, but everything contributes to creation, and so there's an overlap in everything. You see? I hope that I gave some insight to that question. Again, for those that I'm gonna be on here until 9 p.m. Okay. Um. So any questions that you have, anything that you want answered, does it, you know? I mean, that's a good question. I mean, that's really like, how did Adam come to, four? I don't know how you're asking the question, but I'm assuming come with a electron, proton, neutron. I would really have to go back. I mean, that's a straight, that's a straight science answer. You know what I mean? Like, what what could I propose? You know what I mean? But the definite, and just contrary to the definitions that are already given. You know what I mean? And the idea of the balance within the atom to make it function. And what has been discovered with that. You know what I mean? Right? I think that one of the problems that with these questions also is that I don't. They're so abstract. You know what I'm saying? They're so abstract. So like when we study like when we go into deep chemistry, or we go into physics and we study things like the atom and things like that, and the protons, neutrons, and electrons, then what would be the idea of when you say what intelligence guided this? Like we go to ancient texts and stuff, you go into Black Man and stuff like that. It's just what we teach is just the mind. We keep it very simple. We keep it very simple because if you get complex, right? If you get complex and want to know how these systems work, it's almost like you're looking for a more spiritual answer when a lot of the answers are really in neurology and the burgeoning sciences of neurology. And then these ideas of quantum mechanics, this idea of energy and matter and its decisions, right? Its choices, the choices that are made, right? But sometimes these questions are abstract because then I would have to refresh on stuff that, like the history, the breaking down of an atom, an electron, protons, and neutrons, right? But this is basic chemistry. This is basic physics and these ideas. But really, a lot of these questions are really what science would be guiding them, though. It'd really be a lot of quantum mechanics. And we could go back into the ancient text and see what these original people said and that original people said, but what were they really saying? Right? What are they really saying? You know, this idea is where the only usefulness, first, I think that sometimes what becomes a thing is that in the ancient text, our peoples, you can look at, you go back to Africa, you go back to Asia, there's a commonality. There's a use of these ideas, right? But they're always applied to humanity's reality. Why are these ideas useful, right? And how are they broken down, and how would they be useful to how we actually can continue to manifest things, right? So it's almost like you're asking me where innate intelligence comes from, you see? And I can only tell you where it's breaking down. You know what I'm saying? We don't bear witness that it's by chance. Everything is designed, right? See, if mathematics, like I said, I keep it simple. If supreme mathematics only builds positively by going up 1 to 2 to 3 and so forth to knowledge add on a cipher, right? Then that means that the building blocks of all things develop and are ever developing. You see? It really is that simple, because once we say, let's say about the function that we are in with the knowledge that we have that is always at this point limited in this Western world of oppression, right? We can only analyze the scientific realities that are shown to us and analyze them to the best of our ability, right? But when we look at those things in this fashion, right? We look at those things from this fashion, right? Then that means that it is constantly here, that which is us. That means that if we are here, we are self-created, right? And we are ever developing and creating. You see? So when we talk about innate intelligence and stuff, if you want to call it that, because one would be having a hard time getting to an origin, right? The whole point and the reality of saying that the original man that we are the true and living God, the original man, is that the original man has no technical origin. Here's what I said. Look, when people talk about origin, they're talking about the beginning of something. So in many ways, though, we are the original man in this physical reality. That is the origin. But as far as the origin of us as the true and living God, that mind, that reality, that has no precedent. You see, there is no proof that there is a beginning to us when we start thinking about the mind, and that the major tool that we use, the dialect mathematics, and the major tool of what? The mind's thoughts, the energy that is what? Self-created via the thought. So that means that the thought is coming before the energy. You see? Unless you want to argue that the thought itself, though, is a reality of energy. See? But either way, it is originating with us. See? So in one's research, though, and because we're always at that point, though, where we're studying, we're learning, we're breaking down things to the smallest particle, right? And that's why I mentioned quantum mechanics, because it even goes smaller than the atom, right? Then where are we originating from? Well, we're in that quest. We're in that quest for learning that, you see? But as far as like attributing an intelligence, giving it a name and stuff, to me, that makes a mystery out of all of it. And that loses the point of what we're talking about when we say that we're 5%, that we're the true and living gods. Okay? So when you say energy and matter is guided in a mathematical manner, I'm saying that is the only way anything could be guided. So that means that anything that is not right and exact, anything that cannot be created, that is created, is in some way in a mathematical manner, whether that equation lasts or that equation doesn't last, whether it computes or it does not compute. Right? Malik, you said so. The Father in his brilliance made supreme math or explanation of the principles, quantity and quality of the mind, and its being creative creation, its ongoing relationship to us. And isn't that what it is? Isn't that all it can be? See, when we say, is that what it was and what it is that he made? But isn't that all it could be? You see? That's all it could be. The infinite quantity and the endless quality of the mind. See? And if we know about supreme mathematics, we are creating in that reality knowingly and unknowingly. We are always creating in that reality. You know what I mean? Right? Knowledge of that one scientist who said you have a better chance of building an airplane by passing a hurricane through a junkyard than you do thinking all this came by chance. Ah, yes, I remember that quote. I remember that quote. I know Richard Dawkins used it in The God Delusion. You know, you're not asking too much though. It just becomes, Well, also for some context, I'd like to see what you think about it, right? But when we say what is the mind, though, the mind is everything. The mind is this. The mind is the original man, the essence. You know what I mean? Where all the creativity, where all the ideas, all the mental reality is that creates all this universe. See? Quatis, you said you're saying that, I would assume me saying that thought is what God is, and the black man as a human is the original presence of God in that form. I don't, yes. And to be more particular, Quatis, right? Um, Allah being the mind and expressing himself in any form. This is the only form that he could express himself, though, in this reality that he created. You see? It can only be us. We You have the choice to do wrong or right on this righteous day. Yeah, always, always. It is hard to think of what is before existence, you know? And again, that's why we get out of the framework, you know? We get out of the framework of what is, though, right? I said, hit me with questions. You guys went in. The mind consists of imagery component and a verbal. I don't know if that's complete thought there. I'll wait it a little bit. Go back to that. Hmm. I would say so. That would be a decent summary of what I'm saying, not Malik. But the emphasis is that that infinite capability is expressed in this finite form, because if we weren't able to express ourselves in this finite form of the human body, then that means that there would be one reality that we wouldn't be able to express ourselves in. See? The mind is, you said the mind is limited to what it learns through imagery and verbal information. But through intuition, which is the intelligence I'm referring to, man is able to go beyond knowledge learned. I disagree with that. I disagree with that. I wholly disagree with that. Because there is this concept that the heart pumping is innate intelligence, right? We just know it to be so, and our body does it, right? I don't I don't agree with that. Um, let's take, for example, the idea of breathing, right? Everything is learned, so everything is built by the mind, you see? And so everything is created. I think a lot of the things that we call um, intuition are really things that we have already learned. And so now it passes through genetically. For example, right? In this modern day world, the majority of people don't know how to breathe properly. In fact, when you learn martial arts, though, as I have, though, you learn how to breathe properly. You see? So that means technically, right? At one time, we were breathing properly, breathing deeply, using the lungs completely as a muscle, able to travel, using the breath to travel the energy that is within our bodies, self-created, and travel it through the body, as in Qi Kung. And yet now there's this assumption, because we actually breathe in, breathe out, though, that we actually know how to breathe. See? So I don't think so. I think that there are things passed down epigenetically, and that's what makes things intuition, because things are passed down epigenetically. Okay? The ever process of life. Because the reason I say that is because the way I am seeing things, I cannot, it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make scientific sense to accept the mystery that there is intuition somewhere in this. You see? It's just knowledge that has already been known. You see? And one of the things that is great about the mind and the way that it works, though, is that it can store things in its own DNA, in its reality. And so it can't continue. And see, you know what's interesting too? If we look at other concepts of what people talk about the reality of man creating all that is around him, this idea of imagery and verbal information is that none of this exists unless you are acknowledging it. You see? So your mind perceiving things with your brain is not some passive thing. It is an active reality. That yes, there is a reality that is being created around you, but you are creating this reality around you, and what you see is what you have also self-created. You see? And that takes place even for the things that you don't understand. See? If we just chalk it up, and again, that goes to the deeper concepts of neurology and neurobiology, that these concepts of what you are seeing, right, are just interpretations of imagery that is just passing through your eyes, though. It's not necessarily the case. You know what I mean? Not necessarily. What's the biocentrism books? I'm forgetting the author's name. Biocentrism. There's three books about on it, and he formulates some really well thought out ideas about that. Let me see if I can read you a summary of some of that, because it really expresses what I'm trying to say here. Okay, come on. Subtitle to that book is literally is about the idea of consciousness. You see? Okay, let me see if I can find that. Okay. If I could find all of them here, it would be great to share it. All right, let me. My notes are betraying me today. It's like my mind is thinking of parts that I have not highlighted prior. Let me continue though. I'll get back to that. Knowledge, you said God is mind. The mind is the order and direction that powers everything. You can't see the mind. The same way you can't see hot or cold, so as manifests itself, so it can make knowledge born. I think there's a mix between the brain and the mind. I see that. The brain can have limitations based on a number of things. The mind is energy behind that, and within everything, it's just fluid. The science of breath does talk about this aspects of what I was talking about. Remember, the DNA is just a code. All right, everything is mathematical, so it's just a code. Okay, it is actually affected by the proteins directed by the RNA. Quatis, you said it's interesting to think of what other forms of thought after one's human existence. What do you think a deja vu is? Is intuition of what was already happened as well, that which could happen? I think this. I think that because we have because there was a lot of knowledge that is passed down genetically, Quatis. So I really feel that we often are encoded with the ways to react, the epigenetic reality to situations. But I also think that deeper in that genetic reality is the actual experiences that caused that, that provoked that. See, and that's something to tap into, right? This is why studying your history, studying your past, everything is so vital. Quatis, as an example, walking down the street, being able to avoid danger because of your intuition. Well, besides the Spider-Man imagery of that, um, I guess I would need an example. You know what I'm saying? Because you're saying intuition though, but like again, In training in the martial arts, though, a lot of times the feeling that you get is not really intuition. All right, it's just better. It's just spatial awareness, though, and sometimes you have it, and sometimes you don't. It is absolutely something that you can develop. So it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel like intuition. Self creation, yeah, yeah, it is. That is how I see it, right? That's right. Oh, sorry, it is a genetic code. Creator creates creation, right? And creation inspires creator to keep creating. It's really a endless cycle, and it is all over looping, right? Because we are impacting everyone else's creation. Okay, let me see if I could get the. Malik, you said like walking in a club and you get a feeling something's gonna happen. I fight, and that is a feeling. It's not enough though. It's not enough. You know what I mean? We're in a reality of violence, so I don't know if that's intuition. As a mysterious concept. You know, because what we talk about intuition is really just innate knowledge that's in there. But to me, there is no knowledge that is innate. Everything has been learned at one point. See, what we're really talking about the mind, though, is that self-awareness, that consciousness, right? I'm saying that there, when we talk about intuition, the intuition that is being, the way it's being explained here, Quatis, okay? Right? Because all of it, though, is the ability to act, to be aware. You just didn't know how you were aware. Because for the human, intuition doesn't always mean it's correct. A lot of intuition is wrong. We're making the assumption that intuition is always correct. See, and that's the flaw. You see, so we're trying to define intuition, and we put it on a pedestal to assume that it's correct. Intuition doesn't necessarily, it's not always necessarily correct. Right? Okay. And right now, we are defining intuition also as just avoiding danger and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But if we talk about epigenetics affecting it, though, what you were, what the experiences of your parents, your aunt, grandparents, great grandparents, ancestors, um, if they have been in a life of doing the same things, you will intuit to do something that may not be to your benefit. You know what I mean? And yet, that could be your intuition. That could be your or a better word, natural inclination. So the reality of an inclination to do something and the intuition. See, the intuition, say it's intuition, makes it sound endlessly, excuse me, positive, right? You're welcome, Malik. Malik, I actually built on this on that the 1 to 36. It was a few classes ago, so maybe you missed that. That's why I don't jump into it again. But I'm getting lots of questions. You guys are very esoteric tonight. What is your concept of death, Quatis asks? In what forms do our past loved ones exist? How are those intellects expressed? Can that ever be understood? Um, I think it could be known before it could. All things could be known before they are understood, unless we get ourselves out of the framework of what we normally think of. They may never be understood, even if we encounter the knowledge. Right? My concept of death, um, like I said, I think that this is this form. I think that the mind is infinite and it takes many forms and there are many journeys and there are many realities, and I do not put it past anything that there is other reality. I think that everything is a stepping stone, a building block, right? And that the world involves itself and the universe involves itself in many ways. In other words, we are involved with all of this creation in many ways. You know, it is our creation, and the way that we are involved with it can take infinite possibilities. If we have created this universe, then we have created also an infinite plethora of ways to engage in it. So we may engage in this physical form, and then we become engaged in it in some other way. That other way I don't expressly know, but I know that the mind is infinite. You see? And I know that the energy is infinite, right? So that's how I see it. I leave it very open though, because I think that's the most scientific way to deal with it. You know? I did laugh, Malik. I did. Go out here disrespecting people on your NEM shit. Well, it doesn't involve this physical body, so it is another reality, right? Knowledge, whatever it is, it has to be another reality. In other words, another uh, different than this, right? And Quartis, I couldn't say how those intellects would be expressed. You know what I'm saying? Right? You know, we have loved ones that pass away, and then we think we communicate with them and stuff. And are we communicating with them, or we just, or we just tapping into memories that we didn't have? Because remember, the healthier, the stronger, the more greater that you become in tune with yourself. There is untapped memory in here. There is so much information, right? We talked about the brain taking images of everything now, right? Do you realize that if you could, that every single thing you've ever seen, there is billions upon billions of pieces of information that were absorbed, and you only consciously acted on some of it. What were you able to access all of that information? See? So to say that we are talking to people that have passed or things like that, I don't know. I don't know if that is exactly what it would be that we would be tapping into. You see? Complete God Allah, peace. You said you had a question. Is it possible to put understanding before knowledge? And how does that work if they one and the same? I think when it's understanding before knowledge, right? As we build on it, like when we hit the 31st day, it's really more of a matter of taking the understanding that you have and adding and how it interacts with new knowledge. You see? So it is very possible to be in any point in the mathematics, though. Dimension as opposed to reality might be a better word. Complete God Allah. So yeah, I could see that. Why, as you said, to be in tune with the cause and means of seven traveling through space time, define reality, see the universe to be just true and staying centered in God. Huh. Now, mind you, knowledge, we're not in this physical form, so life after death, it really means nothing to us right now. And how that mind prevails or not, it almost becomes irrelevant, right? But to me, with the idea of this mind, of what we know of ourselves, um, it also would be naive and fatalistic. It's an odd word to use in this situation, but it would be wasteful to not think of it in that way either, you know? And I think that people that live this life as a preparation for the next realm or reality, I think they have it in a good mindset as opposed to living this life for the reward of something. I mean, I couldn't guarantee you, Fatis, that telekinesis is a real ability that can be gained. I have not gained it, and I've never seen anyone gain it. And I've never read research that I could validate that it does. I've seen claims of, I mentioned yogis. They say yogis have basically moved themselves, they've levitated themselves. So that would be a form of telekinesis, right? And move things. But right now it's not, it's neither here nor there. Right? Yeah. Good stuff here. Let's see. Um, you get others to move your stuff, right? Quatis, yes, living this life for the reward of something is totally religious thought. And it is an interesting notion to critique. Many religious people believe because they find it hopeless to think that there is nothing after the human life. Believing in heaven or hell gives them solace and keeps them from being savage or immoral. In some cases, though, morality seems to be on a pendulum, and so they think that without this belief, the purpose of life would be meaningless, then that none of their actions would have had any significance, in which there was no hope of justice in the lives of all those they loved ended abruptly at death and had no further significance, and only boredom exists after all one's desires are achieved. A certain emptiness would invade the soul without this hope of something after this human life, something eternal, and without the worries and stress of this world. And that is, yeah, I think a great task on our part to show and give our people reason to be moral, to be excited about this to know that existence will always exist and that human life must have. And that is, I think, a great task on our part to show and give our people reason to be moral and to be excited about this human existence and know that existence will always exist and that human life must have been, as the Bible says, coming from that God in heaven and certainly not evolved from bacteria and developing over millennia. Hmm. The more we learn about bacteria, though, it seems like it's not so bad to develop from bacteria. That's right, Malik. That's right. The knowledge build degree is about teaching and the way that you teach, the order that you teach, right? And these are all dependent upon the student. Okay. It literally is a pedagogical approach, the knowledge build degree. Okay. Civilization, where they are, what is around them, what isn't, what is really worthwhile, real, right? Um, they say in the equality degree in the 136, he likes the devil because the devil gives him nothing. What is that nothing? Presenting them the reality. Then righteousness, the right ways of living, right? And then the knowledge of themselves when they are ready and willing and able, and then the science of everything in life once they embrace that knowledge of themselves. Mhm. Quartis, these are all the realities. We're always trying to help people, but it also has to blend in with the truth of this reality as well. You know that we are creating. And this is what we will create. You know, Why is you said, indeed, we know the outcome of being right and wrong, and we know that they can exist in the same space and at the same set of time. I definitely don't think morality is derived through intuition. One's consciousness gives them a feeling of guilt when committing an immoral act. That's totally untrue. That's totally untrue. I disagree with that 1,000-fold. We are being educated and socialized the minute that we are born by our parents, by the reality around us. So yeah, I know I do not agree with that. Morality is not something that is based on intuition, you know? And you do not intuit whether something is right or wrong. Okay? The natural order of reality is in mathematics and positivity, meaning mathematics has to go up 1 to 2 to 3 in order to continue to survive. In that respect, though, then we are mathematically in tune to do those things that allow mathematics to continue, right? Now, that I don't think that that is something that is based on intuition, because you're calling it's too mysterious. It serves no real purpose to say that it is intuitive. You see, the truth is that we are, if we would say that we are naturally positive mathematically to then live a righteous, to do righteous acts from birth, right? That starts to make some kind of sense, right? But I just don't like the way that I don't like the way intuition is being used right now. You know what I mean? It's a little too mysterious, the word, you know? See, you know what's interesting is that when we look at we talk about the original man and the grafted man. The devil is not wicked by, you know, automatically, okay? They are made wicked by destruction. They are destroyed. They are grafted, okay, before they leave that womb, okay? They have been altered, they have been modified, they have been processed to toward that goal, right? So then it is more of a likelihood that they become, due to their weakness, become wicked. It works the same way around. The supremacy of the individual denotes that they will normally act in a way that will be positive, because that is the natural way. Okay. And that natural way is based on mathematics. And we could call it intuition, though, but what if there is an innate talent? There was um, an ability to understand very quickly, very quickly. That means that intelligence was happening before birth, the accumulation of knowledge, and also its discernment. So, a supreme being, you wrote a lot of math here. I don't know what all this is. You know? Right now, supreme being, God, I think you. Right now, it just looks like you're just playing with numbers here. You know, um, I don't know. I don't know how does that all help. You know, right? Yeah, yeah, that's true, Quatis, right? Very true. Ever increasing incense. That's pretty gross, right, when we think about it like that. Bond Supreme, the law of energy conservation is scientifically proven energy just changes form, doesn't dissipate. True. Yes, complete God. I see that. Intuition is more in line with considerations, and morality is more along the lines of accepting considerations. I didn't say we were unconditioned by nature. I disagree with that. That almost we are. Like, like um, if you mean that we're not changed by nature in our environment, we are. We absolutely are. We wouldn't be in the situation we are today if that wasn't happening, for the good and the bad. Yeah, Supreme Being. I don't really know what you shared there, but it's pretty like, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I know that what I'm teaching though is not about playing with the math. You know what I mean? And playing with words and letters and numbers and stuff. That the knowledge itself follows a lot of the base, a very basic concept that is usually called Occam's razor, the most simplest way to the solution. You know what I mean? Oh, I didn't realize today was Dumar's born day. Hmm. I think that answer is best done if we are mathematically inclined to do positive. Um, it just is, because I said that mathematics just is. So we're not inclined to be mathematical. Okay, it just is. You see, so supreme mathematics is describing what already is, right? We just are. You know what I mean? And probably the biggest reason is because it's the only way that all things continue. You see, it's the only way. It's the only proven way. And if what always was and will be is only possible via that reality continues, regardless to whom or what. You see? Yeah, it's a blatant butchering complete of Wise Jamel's work. You know, that's not what Wise Jamel was building. You know, there used to be understanding that he would give with that. All right, peace, Felix. There's somebody else that was here too. Some other people. I missed them. My apologies. And of course, also by thinning the blood, all these things, district. Frank, you want me to build on the meeting I had with Saladin? Okay, okay. Um, I guess I'll do that before I talk about Dumar, right? I mean, Dumar was a genius, you know. Supreme Being, this stuff that you're writing is not written in any kind of way that means anything, only to you. You wrote here in the intro as if the K11th A1 plus A1 equals B2, a tone 55, 10, 1. Hey, I don't know what you're doing here. I don't know what you're doing here. We're here practicing knowing how to talk to people, the people out there in the street, the youth, the young men, the women that we're interested in. How is that what you're going to say to them? Because I don't get it. You know what I mean? We learn mathematics so we could build it in complete sentences and ideas. These are not complete ideas. You know what I'm saying? And trust, if these are complete sentences to you that mean something to you, then you're in your own world there. Okay. Like I literally cannot comment on that. You know, because you're making me all of my if I try to break that down, it is my own assumptions of what I know, as if and with the assumption that any of this is even right to try to make sense of it. Right? Not a fan of the word strive, Felix. Okay. Ghost and Race, they were striving for perfection, but if they didn't reach it, they wouldn't have had that album. Okay, you just are in it. You are in it already. Uh, I wrote a quick note in the last class about my meeting. I'll read it right now. Okay. Um, and I shared it on one of Dark Him's videos too, as he talked about it too. He was there as well. I said this, right? Because I don't remember the whole thing, but this sums up a lot of it. To be clear, Saladin did this covertly. That means trademark the flag and sent out the emails a month ago. That's how I received my invite as a consultant. Right? I may be above as a non-stakeholder, distinguished peon. Right? I was joking with Dark Him. showing the done paperwork. So I had received the email with the done paperwork. Trademarking and protecting our flag is an old conversation that I know of, but always dismissed. If you use the government as the muscle to defend our flag, which is already altered because it can't be described as a flag, right? You failed in that. They have a precedent of measure to use. It literally can be used against us if we are deemed to have used it improperly, inappropriately in their eyes. And if this is far-fetched, then we better remember we 2 million Indians. Their law is a fluctuating weapon. I said in meeting, he definitely forced us into this because he doesn't realize he established our flag as a fucking product. I was frustrated there. If we get rid of it, you can't log a my bad in the quotes. There now is officially a precedent that the flag has been used as a protected logo merchandise because once in late 2021, a man by the name of trademarked it. See how this works? He put the flag in a whirlwind where an outside force can actually cleverly deem us unworthy of using our own flag. From his presentation, I really felt he made a presentation for everybody. He got caught up with overestimating the intensity of slander in the 85%, 10% guided world's new challenges. This digital world is sticking pins and forcing censorship, so we jump in the ring and use their weapon that has two triggers: our filing and their shot to do what they do. We aren't five preventers, here to make sure everyone doesn't err. We're here to build supremely with the young and allow all else to wither away. It's just crazy how he thought protocol was out the door. For at least 6 years of my teaching, the peace course, elders would come in and study and watch what I was doing, from firstborn prince to my enlightened knowledge me to Darkim himself. Right? And Darkim also gave me notes. Right? I remember a few eyes, so you gotta, all the time. I think there was no definitive move because the shock of ignoring protocol, which is our culture. You know what I mean? That's what I got out of the meeting, though. I think everybody was in shock that this had actually happened. He showed his lineage in a lovely Gabriel Garcia Marquez 100 Years of Solitude chart and didn't think none of them that are alive were worth asking, yo, y'all ever thought about trademarking our flag? I'm sure one of them would have said, son, chill. The elders always worry about the loss of touch and out of context moves one can make when you get lost repping this in the 85 world and maneuvering through the 10%. It's funny that you mentioned Dumar because I wrote here, I remember how Dumar Wadi always was expected to center himself. You go out being the lone rep, you think you the lone one. This never really happened to Dumar, but his ever cool strut and stride made many assume it. Now I think we may be forced to just immediately transfer this. If there's the slightest dilution with that, it should be undone. Either way, I think he probably has gotten us a gun that shoots both ways, if it is ever shot. Okay, so those are my thoughts. Okay, I really think that it was done. Whatever was done improperly in all counts, and it's an improper trademark. It's not really proper. It doesn't really represent our flag, so it should be undone. I have some ideas about that. It's very possible that I will be one of the co-moderators of the next meeting. And hopefully we make sure that this doesn't happen again. And we take steps, though, to ensure that whatever was done wrong is undone and set in its proper place. That's really the goal of the next meeting. We've all been through the shock. I think Saladin was bombed enough times, including myself, as to the folly in his ways here. Okay. And I'm not going to speak about intention, whether he was devilish or not. You know why? Because I could say he intended to do good, something for the nation. But while he was intending to do good, all the proper ways of our culture were thrown out the window. Right? Interaction with our elders is not something that you just forget. If anybody has any other questions about the meeting, just feel free to ask as we go along. Okay. Don't worry about the sorry, Supreme. Just learn, learn, learn. Okay. Now you wrote here. I'm going to say this to you, Supreme God. I'm going to tell you right now. I don't get the advantage that I do here in the chat to see people's writing. Your writing lacks complete sentence structure, and that's why you tried to include the alphabet and the way that you thought of the mathematics inside. They needed to be in parentheses in this sentence, right? So that they could have some validity. But you need to put more grammar into the way you're speaking. This practice has to be done with the pen as well, so that way you know how to speak it. These are heavy, complex thoughts. If you just think you're going to learn them and never have to write down things or never have to write down proper English because that's the white man's thing, then you're making a big fucking mistake. When we atone, get cognizant. See, these are commas that need to be in there because you're fragmenting. That's two fragmented statements. When we atone, why would we atone? Why would we atone? Means to seek forgiveness. We get cognizant of the kind of science situation. What is this science situation you're talking about? And I don't know what that means. When we amend, what is it we are amending here? We perform actions in light improperly spelled here, of the event warrants demands. I don't know if that's if you consider that a cohesive thought, then you've got more practice to do. I'm gonna keep it real, right? This is how real it is. You are the only one going out here saying, and it doesn't matter if this digital space, if this is what you name yourself elsewhere, Supreme B and God. And in all the things you're writing here, you haven't made one statement that is sensible and easily understood. Okay? That won't do. That won't do. You've got to do better. A lot of times we have these complex ideas, but if you don't know how to simplify them and say them simply, then you are not a teacher because you have not first taught yourself how to use it simply. You need to get that journal. You need to start talking to yourself and rereading what you write to yourself. Okay? Very well be coordinates, right? That's what it looked like. You could do you've got to do better if you're gonna take that, if you're gonna take all these complex ideas and they don't get funneled out properly. You need to write, you need to read more to get a practical way. That's why it's important to read different science books, not just for learning new science, but how to explain different concepts. Okay. Knowledge Allah, that build that I just read about the meeting was me. That was me. I had written that on Dawkins' video post, and I also shared it on last week's class session as a comment. Okay, that was my build. So Knowledge Allah, yeah. You said you didn't like the presentation he put on, like we're a bunch of kids in his class, baby feeling like we couldn't understand without an entire dissertation. I think this Knowledge Allah. There are people that are threatened when someone has a prepared. It happens. It goes both ways. When I've taught so many years that I've been teaching. People used to get offended when I had a prepared classroom setting and a curriculum on the board. And I think that he went too orthodox in this, and his own orthodoxy trapped him because he put that big, gigantic tree and root that he comes from, and he didn't get the understanding that more than one of those people on that tree is alive. And if they're above you in a tree, then you needed to go talk to them. So sometimes it doesn't matter about people's intentions. Sometimes it matters about the reality of what they've done, because we cannot really discern the intention. Right now it's irrelevant. And the reason it becomes irrelevant is because he's done a lot of great things. Okay? I think he just went big head scientist on this shit. Oh, you were there too, complete got it out. Yeah. Yeah, it had the duality, right? Upset and feel bad for him too. I didn't really feel bad for him though. I understand where that could come from though. I did not feel bad. Okay. I'm gonna tell you why. Because people think that they just need to know about the root and they can work as the root, or they know the root. You don't. Okay, you don't. And this could be as far you could be from Medina and be far away from the root. Okay. When it comes to how Allah School of Mecca presents themselves to the world, trust me, that's a different matter. Okay. I've been on the school boards. I was the secretary of Allah Youth Center in Mecca board. All right. Every single job that you could do at Allah School of Mecca, I have sold work representing the nation, whether it was my magazines, the Mecca Mission magazine, all of these things, the newspaper, magazines I made, the classroom, the class sessions. There's nothing at Allah School that I haven't done. Every single type of job that there is. So I know what it is to represent, and I know what people have already done to represent. He doesn't know any of that history, and it was real disrespectful to act like he had something to present that would help those people that are already there, And to tell you the truth, though, that kind of disrespect for somebody that has the knowledge so long, though, shouldn't be tolerated, And the punishment is that he should be responsible for the repairs. Because every time it was shown that it wasn't a good idea to step into it, he kept doubling down on the fact that it was okay. Because at least I got us to the step. Well, thank you for getting to us to that step. You know what I'm saying? Thank you. That again, that's Yakub. That's like Yakub coming down in a time machine and going, listen, you brothers are all getting your shit together and everything. Yeah, you know what, Yakub, it's been, it'll be in the future that, it's been 10,000 years since you did this, right? I'm going to go really in the future. It's been 10,000 years since you did this, Yakub. And I think that, we did. So I salute you. No, you're not getting shit. We understand what you did, but you're not getting shit. So all that big scientist, I could do it for everybody and things like that. Nah, that ain't the thing. Everything that I innovated that was challenging to the school, I did it within the framework of the cipher that I was given, that I showed and proved that I could work in. So all of the innovation that I did was in the cipher that I showed and proved that I could work in. I can I get this cipher of a classroom so I can work these realities in it and these educational ideas out through it and these pedagogical formats, etc., etc. Yes, God, show us what you're going to do. Okay, this is what it is. Okay. All right. This is what I plan to do for a newspaper, though. And I go to every elder and I say, this is what I would do. When I made Mecca Mission, people think it was this Latik. No, it was other people. It was other elders there. There was elders all over. And I was explaining. I didn't think I was already in this nation a long time when I did that. So I was like, okay, where are the elders, though? Allah be, you know what I mean? God Supreme. Everybody was there. And I built with them individually to tell them, this is the direction that I think should be. This is what I intend to do with it. All right. And then I executed. Now, they don't know exactly how I'm going to do it. And yet I still explain it to them as best as I can. Right. So all this other shit is bullshit. If you go to, this is the 17th, right? If you go to February 10th class, so just go back in the channel and look at the uploads. And in the comment section of the February 10th class, the what I just read is there. Okay. Devon, you said it takes 12 to 18 months to process to register for a trademark. It was registered December 21st, with December 21st, which happens to be my born day. So he's out there fucking up on my born day, What he should have been doing is buying some polo, you know what I'm saying? Now, if it does get transferred over to a group of individuals, my question is, who are they? Uh, Obviously, it's going to be our elders. And as we decide who those elders are and those who are most knowledgeable about getting this thing done, you know what I mean? And trust, like we have Life Allah, we have a lot of gods that know about this stuff that are our elders that could do a better job and do the right job in getting this across the right way. You know what I mean? Felix, that's a long, elongated question. Okay. The Peace Corps stands for Political Education and Civilization Enrichment. It is my constructed course of a civilization class I've been teaching since 2000, right? Technically April 2000. Okay. Right. It focuses on teaching this knowledge of self, but through the prism of a lot of my skill sets, right? Reading and focused arts, reading, writing, communication skills. It comes with a curriculum, and it comes with the idea, especially in this digital cipher, that the student that is truly in this classroom is the one that is going to act, that is going to communicate with me outside of this classroom setting, whether in the physical classroom or in the outside classroom. Right now, I am in my home, but that's because I'm dealing with I'm helping out with the family health matter. So the next 2 weeks I will be here. But whether we're at the school or not, or there has to be an engagement outside of the classroom. So email me, Felix, what you want to know, who you are, and I could give you some ideas of where we go from there. Of course, it was complete. It was flagrantly disrespected. You know what I mean? And you know what's funny? A lot of other places think that they can disrespect the root though in their own special way. You know what I mean? So a lot of people that claim Medina do the same thing. You know what I mean? And what a lot of people don't realize is that no matter where it's taught, a law school in Mecca is still the place though that officially represents it to the world. And there has to be a respect for that. You know? And yeah, I don't, you know, he really thought it, you know, he thought he did something great, you know. As a grown man, though, 793rd, I don't really have the time to be waiting to see if a grown man learns something. You know, something that they should have learned a long time ago. You know, that's look forward to it, Felix. Look forward to it. Complete. You said he had me down when he said he gets 4 emails daily. I get twice as many, and ain't nobody. I can only imagine the number of emails some of our elders get daily. Um, Yeah, I don't know what that means. And it's like, like I said, there's a few of us gods, and there's only a handful that are really the gods. And where the slander or the misinformed things that could happen, just confusion usually happens in the music world. And there's only a handful of us though, and I handle that on myself. I don't need no trademark in my, some white man's weapon in my backpack to defend that, which I've been defending for all these years in those worlds. Malik, you said this Saladin do irreconcilable harm by doing what he did. No, he absolutely did not. From what I'm learning, there's options though; those will be discussed and stuff. Um, to not only undo what he did, but then to establish it properly, so that way no one else can actually do anything. Okay. So again, we had to fix it, but that doesn't mean that he's going to get credit if it ends up all fixed at the end. No, I disagree with that 1,000%. 1 billion% District 120 music. No. See, well, what he did, he showed that he doesn't go by protocol. He goes by his thoughts, right? And he doesn't really have. He's shown that he doesn't really have respect for seeking out an elder. You know what I mean? Or the innate or the acquired understanding that they've had over years. So why would we give him any task? This is something where absolutely, absolutely, I do not agree with him having anything to do with this in any kind of way. You know what I mean? Absolutely zero. You know what I mean? This is not a child. This is not a child district. This is not a child. You know? My daughter, my little girl, went to get our coats though, and she pulled my polo coat off the rack, broke the hanger and everything. Polo coats, they don't make that anymore. I don't know where I would get that again. And I was like, you can't be doing that, right? You can't. You can destroy the coat. And that one particular one I had made, right? She gets a second chance. She got the understanding, though. Of course, yeah, she gets a kiss, a hug, a second chance. Let you put that up, and I know she's gonna do better because she's developing and she's the best part. That's a grown man. He got a great cipher that he's building with though, and he could take those lessons though and build where he's building and and continue to do great where he's at. Right? And complete. I think a lot of people would like to do that. Put him in a corner with some Duns cap and things like that. But again, though, wouldn't that be served for like treating him like a child? Like we expect them to learn. Like you put people in punishment unless you're America and the prison system, but really you put people in punishment because you expect them to become better from that punishment and never do it again because you are going to give him the opportunity. What opportunity am I supposed to think of that he should have? See? You know? The Instead of thinking of it like in this order as well, Felix, like firstborn mastermind and Lord Jamal and Saladin, let's all look at this though, and as the ego of the individual and the refusal to tap into elders. I used to have let me tell you the culture of going to a law school. You wake up and get your understanding of the day's mathematics as you see it to the best of your ability. Let me put my glasses on. I got my glasses that are for, they're not prescription, but they're, block the glare and everything like that. But, you get your understanding, but you develop your questions. Now you could have an elder like my enlightened knowledge me who's going to ask you questions and never really answer them without asking you new questions. But that's the way it is. But the reality is, right, is that you go over there to a law school and you are looking for a place to learn things and to provoke your learning. And that's why the process of having questions, you see, developing questions is very crucial. You know what I mean? You know? And that's the culture of a law school. You know? You know what's funny, right? Everybody wants to take on the realities of God as like the mystery God. Like you say, I'm the true and living God. And then they take on mystery God powers. Like I could make it thunder and make it rain, and we have control of everything, blah blah, blah hoo hoo, and shit like that, right? But then we don't take up the culture but we miss sometimes that instead of all that bullshit, the actual culture of the way we were talking to God, we should talk to our elders like that. When we have a question, we need to ask him. We need to ask him, hey, have you ever done this? Have you ever done that? Did you ever do this? You students here do it all the time. This is the culture. I have literally had have conversations about the name of law school in Mecca, the name on the building, what we call ourselves, people using the flag and grafting it in the neighborhood, what we could do if we get a copyright, the C and the trademark, whatever it is. He really thinks that these conversations were never had. I was there with those conversations. And they were dismissed because you get what? We don't involve the government. We don't involve people to police ourselves. Because our way of life is based on understanding, and understanding that no courtroom can establish. And I would be aware of complete God Allah. Like maybe both Mastermind and Saladin were pictures and shit like that. But be very careful of making a boogeyman out of anybody. Because it takes away from the lesson that we could learn from this. You know what I'm saying? That we could be in a place where we get incredible ideas and we don't listen. This can happen in your own family, though. You're the leader. And maybe if you have an earth and you don't listen to the earth because you're like, yo, I'm the one with these ideas. I'm the true and living God. I'm the one that's been doing this. And you just don't listen to anyone else. And you don't say, well, what is the best knower and tell? Well, the best knower and tell is someone that knows about a situation. So to override the best knower being anyone else but you assume that no one has any experience with any of these questions. See? If you always look at the best knower as a fluctuating reality and a fluctuating role, then you don't get trapped by the ego, that egotistical nature that could develop. And it's difficult. It happens with everybody. Everybody. People like Mastermind and Saladin, we just see the extremes of it, though. Extremes that ought to get them, I know Born Mastermind, no, I reached, let's just say I reached the point where I wasn't doing any words anymore. Okay? But before it reaches that point, though, we can't forget the culture. Frank, you said, when do you think it's the right time for self to pick or choose his righteous name? When you deem appropriate. I picked my righteous name, Sunez Allah, before I ever went to a law school. I was building with Day Sun a lot. He said his name had Day Sun, the Sun. I'm from Sunset Park. Sun, Moon, and Stars was the flag. Sun had a lot to do with it. So I said, I pronounced it in a way that would show everyone who the brown people are. Because this is the reality I was coming from. Come from a neighborhood that didn't have the knowledge of self. Nobody had it that I knew of. You know? And so I made that statement. I said, Sun is Allah, savior of the universe, now shows and proves the equality of zigzag zig, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, whether added or multiplied, born's equality. The equality of knowledge, wisdom, understanding, zigzag zig. Sun is Allah. And I went out in the world as Sunez Allah. And that was before I even got the knowledge officially at Allah school in Mecca. I was ready. Very, very ready. But the way that you make a name knows, you realize who you are and who you intend to be. Sometimes people don't know what they are. Like what they are right now. How could they describe that in a name? Because you're missing one component. You may be missing a component of who you intend to always be. What will you always be? Yeah? You see? These are the questions to make when you have a righteous name. How will you always be? What you intend to always be? What will you always work to become and always ever born to? And how are you willing to present yourself to the world as, like, in that fashion? I love this culture too. Definitely have to be a man first. See, Saladin is very successful on his own. And probably a lot of the things that he did at the school, he didn't take it. We already could assume. And I don't want to assume. It's not a good thing to assume, but it wouldn't be out of pocket to assume that a lot of the great things he did with his own school, he didn't talk to anybody that I was at a law school to mirror those things or not. You know what I mean? And that's what happens. You know what I'm saying? That's what happens. He did fuck up bad. Did fuck up bad. 793rd since the Urban League. You know what I'm saying? Since the Urban League. Listen, I've had people come into the school wearing their own version of a flag of the new shit that they were making. And I remember one guy with a fez and he had the whole flag, except he had not 8 points, but that shit had to have at least 50 points on it. And I said, nigga, what are you doing? That shit look crazy. You know, you biting. And then you're coming here. Why are you coming here? And he said, well, I'm doing my own thing, so I want to find out what you guys have, so that way I know how to be worshipped properly. Worship properly. Oh, because I'm God, just like y'all, but I'm making my own thing. This is the shit that I didn't have nobody to help me defend. But you can't find a man, woman, and child that saw that flag after that day. That's stupid shit. And I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to leave it at that. All I know is I defended it, though. Whether by word, by fist. I see you, District. I understand where you're coming from with that. Complete, you said the best knower knows what knowledge to use, including the knowledge shared by others who know something about it as well. And sometimes, Complete, you gotta survey the scene. The best knower could be in your midst and you don't know. They're not all draped in a lotus position. You know what I'm saying? Justice, you said, regarding the name, I got knowledge of self before linking with the gods. I knew how I saw myself before then and legally took on my righteous name. Not that I need to, I just did. That's peace. That's peace. I'm assuming it's justice. What do we extract from his blunder? Doing the knowledge, respecting the elders is the first thing. You know what I'm saying? Reiterating that we don't use the government to exonerate us. let alone advocate for us. Okay? That would be silly. You know what I mean? That would be silly. Quatis, you said that defend the abuse of using the flag form is an honorable deed, but there should be a discussion with the elders, teachers, the lessons going outside of that is cause for question. Yeah. Well, as you said, the worst devil is the one that knows who the original man is and teach otherwise. Unfortunately. There will be a structure. You know what I mean? There will be finality, as we go along with this. Absolutely. uh, 7 9:30. I heard someone say something like that in a late night session of the Dark Kim show. One of the nights, who came to the school, who came to school to learn what we know, so he could teach his daughter. That's peace, justice. Always a powerful name. You see, and a name like that is common. So even a name like that puts you in a position where you have something to discuss with elders. If my name was Justice, I would find every justice that ever existed and just always ask them, how do you see your name though? And then and show that love by introducing the way you see it and your history and who you are. So that way you could get their reasoning of how they use their name and see it. Interesting. Adversity always does that. Complete. It always does that. You know. Always brings people closer together. 793. You said he went to school not too far from him, upstate. A few years before, aided by the Urban League as well. Peace to them. Malik, you said I feel bad for Saladin in all actuality because in all his efforts and endeavors, he's going to be known for this. It is what it is. I don't feel no kind of way about that. Sometimes people want to be known. Frank, you said Infinite is my teacher here in South Florida, and we've been building on my righteous name. And Amaru will be my righteous name now. My family comes from Peru. Oh, that's peace. That's peace. You know? You talk about infinite mind, right? That means that you're in the tree. You're in the tree. You know? Definitely write something out about your name. You should be able, as you go along, you should be able to write forever about your name, about who you are, and all that. Justice, you said I chose justice because I knew one day the man I'd become would be the results of reward penalty of my actions and how I applied the lessons to my life and how I affected the lives I came in contact with. Succinct and profound. That's real peace, Justice. Complete. I was in disbelief with his own comparison to Saladin taking Jerusalem for the devil as if the flag is being held and controlled by the true living. Isn't being held. Hey, we set up our own, in a world, man. Set up our own world, man, to justify the things that we do, Listen, I don't think I'll be able to teach though if I didn't have actual moments though where I just was wrong in front of everybody. You know what I mean? Where my elders would correct me in front of everybody and I'll just be wrong and have to take that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it becomes easier to tell you whether I know something or I don't and try to explain it the best I can. You know what I mean? Complete, you said I was in disbelief with. Yeah, okay, I read that. Yeah. Justice, you said for years the universal flag is such a protective and sensitive issue. With someone rocks it, who rocks it, and who rocks it. If worn, you must know how to build on it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just as you said, a God from Allah's paradise told me once that the flag can be worn without acknowledging the entire 120 if it's only the flag on clothing, not a 120 button. What are your thoughts? It can be the flag is really the most technical, but I also it's always with the other addendum to it that like should you be wearing something so profound that you don't know how to explain it really well? You know what I'm saying? Nah, you shouldn't. So it's best to you know wear things that you know what they mean 100%. Because then if you wear it, you're willing to represent this, and then you can't really describe it that well. Nah, man, have some patience, man. If you're not patient, then accelerate not you, but like accelerate the level of your learning, the speed of your learning, and the efficacy. District, you said, my name is Just Magnetic, and my honorable name is Justice, born on the 28th, added up, 10th letter, told my old earth she was upset till I showed her the correlation. So the correlation worked, huh? All right. Malik, I just tried to see the best part poor wise and all, including Saladin's situation pertaining. We'll get it done. Ain't no need to worry about that, Malik. You ready? Yeah, they ain't gonna need to be done. You know what I mean? Complete, you said Mayor Lindsay had a flag. He purchased the first 6 rounds of flags. I'm sure in exchange some protection was set forth. Either way, he's recognized as an unregistered trademark at a law school. It could be challenged in court if we were to choose that route. Again, I don't want to get too deep into it. We only got 3 minutes left here. Whatever questions you have and stuff, but yeah, it is what it is. The flag response knowledge is on last week's class, February 10th, in the comments section. So if you just go to the uploads here, it's the class, last week's class. Okay. That was my immediate thoughts. I wrote that like the next morning, so I think, pretty sure. But yeah, definitely like the next day I wrote that. All right. Okay. All right. Justice, thank you. I am part of the low lives. Yeah, I was. Um, it was one of the low lives, the original lives. Rudy Low, Rakim Supreme Shabazz Allah. Right. Um, he saw my work in hip hop and his teaching at the school, and thought to continue to make the Low Lives a complete hip hop organization. Um, he thought it would be great if I had my L's and stuff, as I was always contributing to the Low Lives. And so around 2016, I became a Low Life. Yeah, I became part of the Low Lives. People talk a lot of shit about, like, oh, you're the god, this and that. It's more like my ball team. You know what I'm saying? Just like Carmelo, he wearing a Lakers jersey. Like, this is the ball team. You know what I mean? So that's what that's how the team I rep when I create. You know what I mean? These works. But as you could see with my books, with my works, with my shows, it's the God. Right? It's an honor, Malik. And I'm glad that the class is useful, Justice. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Bon. All right. So I will let everybody go. And again, if we have, I don't know when that next meeting is. I actually don't know when it is. I'll let everybody know what happens and my thoughts on it as well. All right. Or anything, you can always email me. All right. Sunez97@gmail.com for anything that you need. You know what I mean? All right. Peace.